Hello. In this video, we're going to be solving another radical equation. It's the square root of 3x plus 1 minus the square root of x plus 4 equals 1. And again, a good idea is to get the radical by itself first, at least one of the radicals. And because there's a minus here, it's just easier to add the square root of x plus 4 to both sides. That's going to give me the square root of 3x plus 1 is equal to 1 plus the square root of x plus 4. Then I'm going to square both sides. Squaring both sides gives me 3x plus 1 is equal to, now this one, if you need to, go off to the side and actually square this using foiling. So 1 plus the square root of x plus 4 times 1 plus the square root of x plus 4. Distribute the 1 gives you 1 plus the square root of x plus 4. And distribute the square root of x plus 4 gives you plus the square root of x plus 4. And square root of x plus 4 times square root of x plus 4 is the square root of x plus 4 squared. And so that's going to give you just the radicand, in this case, x plus 4. And then you'd combine like terms. Notice that the 4 and the 1 share a common, are like terms. There is not a like term for x, and square root of x plus 4 and the square root of x plus 4 are like terms. So we're going to be getting 5 plus x plus 2 square roots of x plus 4. Now then, at this point, we need to solve for this radical again. So I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides, subtract x from both sides, and what I'm left with is 2x minus 4 is equal to 2 square root of x plus 4. And again, all we have to do here to get rid of the 2 is to divide. But notice that both this term and this term have a common factor of 2, and that's along with this term. So I'm going to divide everything by 2 here, and that's going to give me x minus 2 is equal to the square root of x plus 4. And again, at this point, because this is the square root, I'm going to be squaring both sides. And the left-hand side is going to simply be x squared minus 4x plus 4 is equal to, this just leaves me with the radicand, x plus 4. Now some people tend to have trouble figuring out the x squared minus 4x plus 4 whenever I do it in my head, so I'm going to show you how I do it. So I take this x here and I square it. Well, that just gives me x squared. Then I take this 2 and I square it, and that's going to give me the 4 out here. Make sure you leave some space though, because then you have to multiply these two together. X times negative 2 is negative 2x, and then double that gives you negative 4x. That's how I do that in my head. Now all we have to do is solve this quadratic equation. And the easiest thing to do, or often the best thing to do, is to get everything on one side. So on the right hand side I'm going to have 0, and on the left hand side, notice all I'm left with is x squared minus 5x. Now a lot of people find this frustrating because they forget that this is very simple to factor, because they always expect there to be some number here. You don't have to have a number there. And notice that in this term there's an x, in this term there's an x, so there's a common factor. So if I was to factor out that x, this is just kind of sidebar here. If I was to factor out the x, that gives me x times x minus 5 is equal to 0. And again, that means x equals 0, or x minus 5 equals 0. Notice I can add 5 to both sides, making that x is equal to 5. So I have two separate possibilities. But again, remember, we have to check our answer. If we don't check it, we don't know if it's true or not. So let's start out with 0. In the original equation, we get the square root of 3 times 0 plus 1 minus the square root of 0 plus 4, and we're hoping that's 1. 3 times 0 is 0, plus 1 is 1, and the square root of 1 is 1. Minus 0 plus 4 is 4, and the square root of 4 is 2. And 1 minus 2 is negative 1. Does negative 1 equal negative 1? No. Therefore, this is not a solution. That means that I have to reject that 0. The 0 is simply a solution to the quadratic equation. It is not a solution to the original radical equation. Next, let's look at the 5. If we plug it in, that gives me the square root of 3 times 5 plus 1 minus the square root of 5 plus 4 is equal to 1. Well, 3 times 5 is 15, plus 1 is 16, and the square root of 16 is 4. Minus 5 plus 4, which is 9, and the square root of 9 is 3. So 4 minus 3 gives you 1, and ask yourself, does 1 equal 1? The answer is, of course, or at least I hope so, yes. Therefore, we do have a solution here, and that's the number 5. Alrighty, well, I will see you in the next video.